Hello and welcome once again to the CGW podcast. This is our third, so I think it's officially a trend that we're actually going to keep doing this. For better or worse, here we are. Hi. With me are a few CGW editors, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Shawn Elliott.
Darren Gladstone.
Ryan Scott.
And Jeff Green, editor-in-chief. And we have our pal Scott on the engineering tip over here, setting the levels. So if things are going wrong, if you can't hear, if you hear us wheezing or stuttering, that's Scott's fault. Okay, so let's start off with something nice and easy and talk about what we're playing. This is a regular feature that I think I'm going to call What We're Playing.
Wow.
Does that sound good?
I never would have guessed where that's going.
This is how I got this job. It's that kind of creative genius. So this week on What We're Playing, we're going to start with Shawn Elliott.
Okay.
What are you playing?
Quite a few things, but I think the game that people are most interested in, at least today, is Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, baby.
And for one, everyone, as I'm playing it, everyone keeps saying, what? You're playing that? Why are you playing that? Because typically, I'm the FPS nut. It's purely multiplayer games most of the time. The other games I'm playing this week, Battlefield 2, Euroforce, number of source mods and whatnot. But so here I am with this game with spells and potions and unicorns and all this stuff.
Yeah,
and,
that's not really your kind of thing normally.
Very touchy-feely compared to the stuff you're used to.
I think, well, there's a few things there. One of the misconceptions is that I only play a specific type of game. One, historically, I don't know, for my however many years I've been gaming, I've been playing everything, but I gave up on RPGs for a while.
So you did used to play the Zeldas and
all the console RPGs, yeah. I used to play them all. I mean, even the rinky, from the good ones, the Phantasy Stars, to the rinky-dink stuff, you know, the super highlights and all that stuff. But what drew me back to this, aside from the graphics, which are much better looking than a number of shooters out there right now, and that's typically where you get the best graphics, is that it's an action game at heart. I mean, it's rather than like Morrowind, the last Elder Scrolls game, where die rolling is determining all the combat. Now it's twitch-based. It's based on the physics of the game world, where if you're, in combat with someone, you're hitting. It's based on your sword actually connecting with theirs, and so consequently, you're able to get a lot of the reflex-based and intuition-based game rewards for your gameplay there. At the same time, I mean, that's going to scare off some of the people that like the lower key, more thinking man stuff.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
But I think that's still there because you can, as you're playing it, you don't have to approach it the way I do. I mean, you can go into it, and instead of getting all of your parries right and your rolling away from guys and coming back and counterattacking, you can go at it with potions prepared in advance. You've worked out, what the weaknesses of your enemies are. You come in with a number of combo spells that are going to hit them or hurt. So you prep, you set them up to be weak to just the spells that you're going to follow up with next. You got the right kind of potions to fatigue them and this and that, and you can put all the work in it in that direction.
Your stats must matter to some extent, though, right? I mean, pardon my ignorance here, but
got to be some kind of modifier, I'm guessing.
Yeah, your stats totally matter. I mean, your sword, whether or not your sword connects is based on the physics and the interaction of the geometry, but how much damage it does is based on your stats and whatnot. And you get that through fighting. You can get it through money making and buy basically stats for yourself.
How much of the game are you finding is quest-based? Because that's what I remember from Morrowind and Daggerfall, that I was pretty much just, trying to solve one thing or another, trying to align myself with one faction or another or whatever.
Right. Yeah, the majority of the game is pretty much quest-based. There's your main quest, and then there are a number of side quests, but I think they're a little more open-ended now. So some of them, think of some of the more oblique examples. Like if you join the Brotherhood, which is the Assassin's Guild, and you get the invite that way by basically killing an innocent person, and you wake up and you have them approach you. A lot of the missions that they'll give you are a lot more like a Hitman game or like a Thief or something. So the gameplay is, so if you're doing an Assassin's Guild quest, and it basically has to do with, maybe loosening, there's a mounted Minotaur head on the wall, and loosening the screws on that so that it falls and looks like an accident and kills someone. That's an entirely different sort of quest than going, through a dungeon and fighting a bunch of guys. And
right.
So ultimately, it is a number of quests you're dealing with. There's a lot of variety to them. And then there's there's a lot of stuff that's fun to do when you're not specifically questing. If you're just roaming around through the woods and you're looking for, rare herbs and flowers and stuff, it's kind of like a game in and of itself, because then, as you find those, you can mix them to create new spells. Darren's giving me this.
You should just hear yourself talking. If you heard us talking about a game where we were like roaming through the forest looking for herbs,
yeah,
you would be laughing at us.
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty true.
I'm going to craft my AIDS quilt in the game.
Let me ask you a question.
Essentially, I'm looking for the nin root, with which I can combine the mutton chop for a +7 fatigue. Yeah, it's bad.
No, actually,
it's bad.
I'm kind of wondering, because you haven't had a chance to play. You're probably still playing with just one character. Have you tried playing it different ways with different characters yet?
No, that's how dorky I am on this thing, man. I've got 2 characters. One's a level 11 now, which is pretty high considering the game's just coming out now. And then the other, not so high, about a 5 or 6, and I got that going on the office computer. But yeah, and then even the way that I've played both of those has radically changed the game. I mean, they're so different.
What I'm wondering about is, like, when you play with these 2 different characters, do you interact with other NPCs in totally different ways, and the overarching stories just totally flip when you're playing?
I'm not sure about that. The main quest really doesn't, based on the difference in your characters, but say, one of them's a primarily magic user, so I'm emphasizing on the mage quest, so it's different that way. The difference, I think, primarily is just in the way that you're actually playing the game.
Okay,
the way that you're fighting and whatnot.
So it's not like you have to kill the guy as an assassin, but you have to protect him as a mage or a warrior or something.
No, I haven't seen any flips like that. But depending, regardless of your character, as you're doing any of those missions, you do have quite a bit of flexibility in terms of what you want to do. Another example would be that you're sneaking into this compound, and people get to this spoiler alert, but they'll get to it pretty quickly in the game, and you're supposed to steal some book. And basically what happens is that you sneak in under the cover of the enemies that are conducting some cult ceremony, and you can either just get in there as soon as you get in the door, go crazy and start killing them all. You can go along up to the last minute at which they ask you to kill their human sacrifice, and then you can either go ahead with it and do it and then go along, grab the book eventually, and after they all disperse from the ceremony and leave. Or you can get all dramatic in Indiana Jones and rip his ropes off him and stand up with him and fight your way out. And so there's all these different things that you can do.
Cool.
Could you basically just rampage through the world if you wanted? Could you just kill all the NPCs? Not that I would do something like that. I'm just wondering.
There are a few. What they basically do is they'll prevent you from killing the main mission story related NPCs. So you can't basically ruin yourself that way. Basically run out of saves. But you can kill a number of them, and then the consequences will be that you kill the alchemist, and you're not going to be able to buy any ingredients from him again. You're not going to be able to do his side missions and stuff. And since there are so many non-primary missions, far more than there are primary missions, you can get away with killing quite a few innocents and adversely affecting where the game goes from there.
Cool.
So one more question about this, which I have, and I'm sure a lot of listeners have. Any thoughts on, you're playing it on the PC, but any thoughts about PC versus Xbox 360 for this title?
Yeah, it always comes up the whole time you're playing it, and especially anytime I get a frame rate dip, I start thinking of because I have a less pimped rig at home, and I start thinking of the Xbox One. But ultimately, where I'm at now, I really like the hotkeys. Being able to switch between my weapons and spells really quickly, and it's essential for my fighting style. What I'm assuming they're doing on the 360 is making it so that the D-pad is your hotkeys, and you can have 8, and you can actually see that in the game because they only let you have 8 rather than 10. And I think that's a little sign that they're going for the middle line right there.
Have you guys seen it running on the 360?
Yeah, the only perceivable difference, because I didn't get a chance to actually sit down and play it full, into it too deep yet, but it's just dropped, lowered texture resolutions. That's about it.
Yeah, the other thing too is that the experience is so much more varied on PC. Like Darren's playing on a 30-inch monitor, plus 2000 res.
Yeah, 2560 by 1600 is awesome,
and the frame rate is amazing on it too. And there's no
that's how we're all playing that game, Darren.
Yeah, okay, so I'm compensating.
Way to rub it in.
Ziff Davis's console guys came through, and people from 1UP and EGM, and they were like, "Oh God, we got to play it on PC." After they saw, even me playing it on my rig here. But the other thing to bring up too is on the PC side is we get the mods, and Morrowind had millions of them. And whether it's something as simple as hey, we get to fly, could see that mod in the first week where we're flying around the world or something like that. There's just going to be so many little ways to change the experience on the PC side that I think the console guys are going to miss out on.
So here at Computer Gaming World, we're saying play the PC version. What a big surprise. But we're not biased.
Surprise verdict.
Unless you're really poor, unless you haven't upgraded in a while. I mean, to be honest. Then you might want to go for the performance and the graphics on the 360. That is, if you're running old hardware.
Yeah, but if you figure if they want to play any of the new games coming up, Enemy Territory, Quake Wars, or what have you, they're probably going to want to get a new PC anyhow. So spend another $5,000, guys.
Who needs a $300 console when you could have a new $5,000 PC?
Use car or computer. Tough call.
Don't forget to bring up the TV thing on that. I mean, everyone says on the console, hey, Xbox 360 is $400 or something. But then, like I was playing Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter on a regular TV, on a non-HD TV, and it doesn't even look that good. You can't even read the on-screen instructions. So when you look at the prices and your comparison shopping, like figure in a nice HD TV with your next-gen console gaming price too.
I was totally going to bring that up. I was actually... and I'm really anticipating the GRAW, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, for the PC, but to get my fix in the meantime, I've been playing on the 360. I have two TVs at home. One's normal resolution, non-widescreen, boring. I said you can't even read the menus. The game's optimized for widescreen. You can't view it otherwise.
That's crazy.
But so it's letterboxed.
Yeah, totally. And then on the on my big honkin' HD set, the game looks cool. I mean, it's basically 360 SOCOM. That's basically what it is. Of course, I got bigger beefs with AI and I mean not just my own squad mates who run. It's like, oh, that's a bullet. Let me try to catch it. But it's more just like as soon as you start, every time you play the level, you know exactly where the guys are going to be.
It'll be interesting to see with the PC version that's coming out shortly here, if just how different some of the AI is and whatnot.
Well, when I was talking to those guys early on, they said straight up that they were focusing a lot on AI for the PC version because we know how demanding we are with that stuff. And
that makes sense because it was like between us we were calling it Mad Dog McGraw in honor of Mad Dog McCree laser light gun amusement coin operated amusement system.
Dude, American Leisure.
Where basically you're going down the street and you look up and you're like, balcony up there on the right, dude's gonna come out, watch this, and then he's gonna fall over and into the horse trough, and there he goes.
Totally.
Ryan, you've been awfully quiet over here. Are you playing anything these days?
I'm kind of playing Get the Magazine to the Printer.
Man,
that's the crappiest game ever.
What a stiff this guy is.
Not playing anything like with Guild Wars?
I don't have time for
Ball of energy. Ryan Scott.
Not soloing Guild Wars anymore?
Oh, someone has to make the magazine. Excuse us.
I thought it was little Keebler elves that made it or something.
Yeah, we're all playing games. You got to lighten up.
Well, I'm looking forward to Oblivion.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't have copies of Oblivion yet, do we?
Oh, no, that was my whole weekend waiting for Oblivion to show up at my doorstep. That was
right. If you hear this, Bethesda, if you're listening, send us some damn copies of your game.
Actually, we've been assured that copies are on the way. Thank you, Pete. More the better.
Thank you, Pete. We love you. Sorry I cursed at you.
But I saw you guys got the codes for Euroforce for Battlefield 2. Did any of you install that?
You know what? I tried, but I'm telling you that EA downloader hates me. I've been having so many problems. It's crashed my computer twice.
That thing
I
is a
can't
mess.
get it going.
I actually, one of my friends had to re-download the downloader in order to have Euroforce show up.
Steam, it's not.
No,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like Steam in the launch era Steam, but worse right now. But beyond that, the booster pack, it's kind of tough to talk about because just go off on real quick. It's $9.99, so it's kind of like that's if you're a working adult, that's really not much. But
well, what are they exactly adding to it? I mean, what's the full rundown? I mean, is it like a lot they're putting in there for $10?
Basically, what you get are 3 maps with 2 versions of each. Zoned to 16-player and 32-player. They killed the 64-player size map. You get some new vehicles, which, for all intents and purposes, are just different geometry and textures. But the same
attributes
stuff you're used to. Some new tanks and then some new guns. The guns are different. They definitely handle differently and whatnot.
Isn't this something they used to do? They would do in a free patch, say?
It is. It's something they would do in a free patch, and then when you compare it to also the traditional notion of an expansion pack, it's pretty meager. I mean, there's no, say for example, the Secret Weapons of World War II expansion for Battlefield 42, which I really loved.
That was
that was great.
That was a huge expansion.
Yeah, it introduced,
mobile spawn points. I mean,
and objective-based modes too, which is the objective-based mode. I think would really be cool in Battlefield 2, and I was waiting for that. But so take aside all the complaints about it's not this, and it's not that. The 3 maps are a lot of fun, and they're radically different in experience than the other ones that were already available. I mean, in terms of you now, a lot of them are really armor based, and you can have these tank battles where your team has got like a column of like 8 to 10 tanks rolling together, and there's nothing like that in Battlefield 2. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just you'd have 2 tanks on your side as a max. Most cases, just 1. So it's kind of it reminds me a lot of the North African campaigns in Battlefield 42, where you had just massive tank battles and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, get my money's worth. I like it more than the Special Forces expansion pack so far for what's there.
Wasn't there a big patch to go with it too?
There was they've been patching it like crazy recently, and look forward to CGW going into this new month in our new viewpoint section. Going to be looking at the history of Battlefield 2 and how it's evolved and where it's at. But basically, with the last patch, it signifies a victory for one of the camps in the community, where you've got these 2 factions that both each expects different things from how the game's supposed to play, and basically one of them won. The ones that wanted really accurate weapons, they were sick of air superiority and whatnot, so they reversed all these things, and it's interesting to see, one group get their day and then the other deal with it now. But
you can't please everybody.
You definitely can't. You never can.
Just jumping back on one thing though, because I don't know. I feel like I have to give props at least to Epic and Ubisoft, because they release free expansions still. I mean, for Rainbow Six 3 and for Unreal 2004, we're still seeing mega packs all the time come out, or a couple free maps and weapons and levels and whatnot.
Now, if Ubisoft could just lose Star Force, though.
Well, they're working on it, I hope.
And Epic's been just huge with, the size of the content you get is just phenomenal with their games. The other thing that's hard on Battlefield 2 is that you could complain about is that, unlike, say, a game based on an Epic engine or Valve's Source engine where users are creating tons of maps, with Battlefield, the assets are there, and there are a number of good maps there, but there's no way to distribute them, since they're not distributed on the EA downloader, or you can't just join a server and have it auto load like you would with a Half-Life 2 game. So what happens is, essentially, these maps are there, but there's no one will get them, because most people don't go Google searching new Battlefield 2 maps and then go through the trouble of finding a server. So
I bet you could
they got us locked into buying their booster packs for new.
Well, I bet if you go to filefront.com, you could find all your Battlefield 2 needs.
You could, and then start making some servers to host it.
Man, I am such a whore.
You are, but you're a cheap one.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know how much time we have left to get into the other topic. 4 is that 4 minutes? Wow, that's not a long time. Oof. Do we want to hold off on this other topic, or should we mention it briefly?
Let's try to tackle it, see what we can do.
Let's mention this briefly. The other topic is related to our opinions on games, and it's the fact that the April issue just shipped with our bold new direction, which is no stars on the ratings. This was a conscious decision that we thought about a lot, that we're pretty serious about, and that we're still pretty gung-ho on, despite a small avalanche of mail. And like I did last week, I'm going to read a letter because it's so fun to do. Here we go. Quote, I buy your magazine and PC Gamer for one thing, the reviews. I don't read the previews or the features. That's great to hear. I don't have a lot of spare time in my life, so review scores allow me to skip the trash and read only the reviews of good games, which then allows me to further whittle down the small number of games I have time to play. Please refund my April issue, as it is worthless to me without review scores. If you plan to continue this in the future, cancel and refund the balance of my subscription. Okay. So he feels betrayed. And so do a lot of other readers. Betrayed or disappointed or upset. They want their scores. They want us to tell them that this game is, our reviews still are reviews. We still have opinions. But somehow a lot of readers are feeling they're less useful without a number attached.
Because that would mean that I actually have to read the review. God forbid.
Well, I think there's a lot more. We should probably let Ryan, as a reviews editor, pass the dude sheet of Ryan.
On the left-hand side, even.
Well, with the April issue, it's kind of misleading, because we're billing the no scores thing as sort of an April Fool's joke, but it's not really an April Fool's joke. We're going to keep doing it.
That was the joke.
Ha-ha.
That it wasn't a joke. Aren't we clever?
It's a thinker.
So you're going to start seeing a lot more changes with the May issue. we're going to start doing sort of longer, in-depth reviews on fewer games. And what we're kind of trying to do is to encourage people to go to oneup.com to read scored reviews on games and then come to CGW for a sort of bigger picture look at the games they're covering there.
Also, by saying that we're encouraging people to go to oneup.com, we're not saying we're passing the buck. The fact is that the oneup.com review with a score is still our review.
Right. It's going to be a lot of our writers.
It's going to be a lot of CGW writers and sometimes even us ourselves.
And we're just going to be working really closely with them so that on day one when the game comes out, you're going to see a timely review as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 months. You want your score? It'll be there for you.
Right.
Something else I'd point out to Rex, who wrote us, is that for someone like him who has so little time, this new system should work fine for him in that we're still giving editor's choice, awards when applicable. And so if he's only got the time to read the very best, read about the very best games and to play the very best games, then, that can be a guide right there in terms of skipping by. So if
that's right. We're still going to have those awards logos on the games that we really recommend.
Yep. I think basically a lot of people are complaining right now without knowing the whole picture. And once they see the May issue, it's going to totally click with them and they're going to get it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more to it than just a no score.
Right. It's easy to latch on that because it's obviously a big deal. But we are doing this in the context of a larger picture of how a monthly magazine can work. If you're listening and you don't know this, we're basically writing these issues 6 to 8 weeks before you see them. So if we get Oblivion today, for example, on March 19th, you're not going to be reading about it and reading our score until, May.
The June issue at this point.
Yeah. And at this point with the internet, we have to ask ourselves what exactly is the point of doing that.
Amen.
and obviously we're not abdicating the notion. It's just that we have to think in terms of, okay, by June, all the internet reviews are going to have been out. You, the gamers, have probably bought the game, played the game, and possibly even sold the game back already. So we can't pretend that you've seen no opinions on it and don't have an opinion yourself. So the idea that we're trying to propagate with our May issue is, as Ryan said, is to just sort of take a big picture of it. That we're not going to just give you a review and pretend that this is in a vacuum. We're trying to look at what is everybody saying about the game? What are the developers saying about the game that they've made, in as a post-mortem sort of way? What has happened to the game since it was released in terms of patches?
I think that's the bottom line too. Instead of seeing it as you're getting less, as in you're not getting a score, really you're getting so much more, because you're not only getting our perspective, which will definitely still be there, but we're situating that perspective in the context of, as you're saying, Jeff, what the developers have to say after the fact, and not only what the other reviewers and review aggregate sites say, but what the communities say.
Right.
So if it's a game like Battlefield, going back to that, since that's what's on my mind right now, I'm able to look at all the key communities, talk to people as I play with them. So ideally, the reader, your voice is coming into play as well. Or we're hearing you and acknowledging that, whatever we say about this, we can't get around the fact that, that these things are there and that they're, shaping the experience for people in different ways. So I think that, ideally when you come away from this reading it, you're going to have a sense for this huge discussion that's still evolving around a game. Mm-hmm. And you'll have a much more well-developed perspective on it, and your purchasing decision will be much better informed as well.
Or maybe we're just full of crap.
I don't know. I talk to guys all the time in all walks of the industry, and even like guys at competing magazines are saying that they're wishing that they're taking the steps that we are. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
We'll see. We'll definitely see. It's funny. I had an email exchange with Johnny Wilson, who some of you may know as the former editor-in-chief of this magazine way back in the day. He's the one who hired me, and he was the editor-in-chief at the time in 1994 when CGW added ratings. In the old days, for the first 91, 12 years of this magazine, there were not scores on the reviews. And after Ziff Davis bought the magazine in around 94, they decided to add scores because that's what other competing publications were doing. And there was a firestorm of protest over regular mail and CompuServe and other things back in those days, because CGW was perceived as selling out now for adding scores and for dumbing down the reviews by adding scores. Now you didn't have to read it, you could just look at that stupid number. So now the initial email we're seeing back is that people want the scores. So kind of an irony there in terms of what readers want or think they want. Or possibly maybe the audience is just changing, you know? Maybe back then in 94 it was a different kind of crowd that could deal without scores, and now people need them. Maybe it's just what people are used to.
Well, I think the critics are always the most vocal too. Like, I'm sure right now that PC Gamer is getting still probably getting loads of mail about their recent redesign, in the same way that when I worked with Electronic Gaming Monthly, their redesign as of 2 years ago just brought in a deluge of just complaints, bitter, angry people on their forums. You know, same thing.
So maybe it's just that haters hate.
Those are the only things we really hear from.
Exactly. How many people write in when they're inspired because they're happy? No, they just enjoy what they're reading.
Have you guys ever written a letter to the editor of any magazine, like gaming or otherwise?
Usually when I'm angry.
When you're angry, yeah.
Nah, I always try to imagine what it takes to do that.
But what did Johnny say though? His feedback?
Well, Johnny was laughing. he was laughing at me. It was basically a sort of Nelson. Like, good luck with all that. I mean, and also interestingly, he said that in a publication that he's working on, which I think is online, they are going to have a rating system, because he just feels like it's kind of death to these days to not have one. And he said, thanks for proving my point. So there you have it. And we're getting a spinning finger from our engineer saying, "Stop yammering."
The wrap it up box has been hit.
Do we have any final words? Ryan, Yoda one over there. The deadly silence.
I got nothing.
He's got nothing. He's busy making the magazine, folks. If you like the May issue, is that what we're working on?
Yep.
You could thank Ryan Scott.
Because he's the only one who wrote the whole thing, apparently.
Right, because we've all been playing.
Sweet Oblivion. That's what I crave.
We will see you again next week. Thank you, gentlemen. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Peace out.